Hello, and welcome to a new video. I have a question to ask. When did you first hear about Scorn? Perhaps you came across it from a post on an online forum, or stumbled upon the trailer on YouTube, or maybe it was mentioned in a top 10 upcoming horror games list, or you were specifically looking up body horror geekeresque video games and you were on Google at the exact right time. In any case, however you discovered it, chances are you discovered it after the reveal trailer and the gameplay trailer were posted. However, these are not the first trailers that have appeared for the game. On the 12th of November 2014, Ebb Software uploaded a pre-alpha trailer to their page. I won't get into the complete history of the game, as I'm saving that for a later video, but I will say that the developers initially sought funding from a publisher like Sony, was turned down because the game would be too weird for mainstream audiences, and have since sought funding on Kickstarter. And that is where the question starts. Why did the early Kickstarter fail and the new one succeed? For slightly more information, their campaign started November 13th and ended on December 3rd. It was in fact ended early because, as you can see, the developers were most certainly not making the kind of money they had hoped to. Compare and contrast that with the successful campaign that started on September 4th, 2017 and managed to get halfway through only a few days in. They not only reached the goal on September 29th, but they surpassed it completely, getting enough for a few stretch goals even. So what happened? Why did one succeed where the other failed? Where did they go so right? Where did they go so wrong? Well, there's actually a few reasons. Some pretty obvious and some that might not seem all too obvious, and I'd like to go over them in this video. Let's begin. One basic tradition for Kickstarter is the rewards. You not only invest in a product, but you might get a few goodies on the side. The successful Kickstarter had much better rewards than the unsuccessful one, which I very much believe was a major incentive to a lot of people to donate. For the failed one, donating 15 euros gets you a copy of the game. That's the lowest reward. For their second campaign, with just a donation of 17 euros, not significantly more than the old one, you not only got the game, but you also had access to the demo, you got your names in the credits, and you even got a few wallpapers. Overall, a little bit of a better incentive for roughly the same amount of money. Their previous highest tier reward wasn't the worst in the world. For 200 euros you got a copy of the game, you got some wallpapers, a digital art book, digital soundtrack, limited boxed edition of the game, a limited print edition art book, limited edition soundtrack vinyl record, and early access to the prologue. You got all of that in the new campaign for 100 euros less, and that's not even the highest. In the new campaign, if you pledge 250 euros, a little bit more than the difference between 15 and 17 euros, but not too much, you would also get a printed art book, a t-shirt, canvas print, a flash drive rather than a boxed edition, and a nifty action figure. And if this game ends up being shit, I would have been ripped off about $350. Wonderful. In addition, something could be said about the presentation of the Kickstarter campaigns. The old Kickstarter campaign and the new one both have concept art and they both have the information about the game, but the old one was a little bit more bland, I suppose you can say, reusing the same concept art for each of the labels and using a very generic font on top of the labels, just sort of slapped on without any regard for how well it meshes. It's readable, but it doesn't look pretty. Meanwhile, the new concept art uses different concept arts for each of the labels, and they also went out of their way to include a rather nifty looking, very thematically appropriate font for them all. By the way, if this font is somewhere to download, please let me know, Ebb Software. Scorn is a game that draws people in based on its visuals, and it seems that the visuals likely drew people in with the new campaign more than the old one. Where the old one was fairly utilitarian and just delivered the information as clearly and concisely as possible, the new one went out of its way to have a bit of flair, and people appreciated that. Which brings me to the next thing that very much likely drew people in toward one project and not the other, and that's the trailers. Both the pre-alpha trailer and the reveal trailer accomplishes the same thing. They present this strange new world of odd forms and somber tapestries, and do so with some creepy music on top of it, all without giving away a plot, a main character, or what the hell this game is even going to play like. However, the old trailer, being pre-alpha and all, is a bit rough around the edges. And I do mean really rough. See that thing right there? That's a gun in the pre-alpha trailer. And here it is in the reveal trailer. But the shoddiness of the models I don't think is what deterred people the most. After all, the world is so weird. For all we know, it could just look exactly like that because that's how things are in the world. I think one of the big differences that people notice with the old trailer and the new one is the color and the lighting. I'm sure you've heard about the whole issue of video games being brown and gray. Developers would try to invoke realism in their games by making the color palette brown and gray. It was something considered next generation, almost. People were starting to get tired of it. They want to see more color. They want to see what graphics can do. It was last year, in fact, before the trailer was posted, that BioShock Infinite came out, for example, and dazzled people with the amount of different hues a game could have. Meanwhile, the reveal trailer has a bit more to look at. There's reds, there's greens, there's yellows, there's even a bit of blue here and there. It's just overall more visually appealing, not just from graphical fidelity, but also from a color perspective. Another big thing is it presented a multitude of different looking areas. There's these flesh towers, there's this wall of flesh, there's some industrial looking facility and giant doors, there's a mysterious outside of the planet littered with the rotting carcasses of creatures. It just invoked more of a world to explore. You can be in some industrial facility at one point and walking along a ribcage bridge at another, as opposed to the cramped, dark, lonely, isolated area that the pre-alpha trailer presented, where at most you have a few tunnels to explore and 2 levels of height. The final key difference is how widespread the trailers were. Whether it's because the second trailer was more visually appealing, along with its Kickstarter campaign being much more enticing, or ebb Software, being a small studio, needs at least 2 tries to get lucky, sort of similar to the Agony devs. The fact is that more people saw the new trailer. And a large part of that is because of aggregate channels like MKIceandFire here, which are able to draw in a much larger crowd because they appeal to a much larger demographic of gamers looking for upcoming games in general, rather than requiring people to stumble upon this specific niche game. And actually, there's one more thing. The pre-alpha trailer was released a day before the Kickstarter launched. A small studio filled with unknown names making this incredibly weird underground game isn't going to draw in the kind of crowd they need where just a day after everyone's throwing money at them. But the reveal trailer was posted around a year before the gameplay trailer, which was highly anticipated already by people who know about the game thanks to the reveal trailer and channels like MKIceandFire, which then came along with the Kickstarter campaign. So better timing, better connections, better graphics, better presentation. Gaming really can be a make it or break it thing where otherwise good ideas could be swept to the wayside. It's a gamble, and not everyone makes it through. The Scorn devs are incredibly lucky that they were able to get further funding from Humble Bundle and be part of their lineup, as well as being able to launch this successful Kickstarter, and I do hope they don't squander it. But it does come to question though, just how many games out there could have been phenomenal, might even have been as essential works of media as Super Mario Bros. Or The Witcher 3, but were never able to take off because they were made in the wrong time, or the wrong place, or had the wrong showmanship, or just couldn't find the right connections. We may never know that answer. But if Scorn does end up being good, which I invested $350 into it being good, then perhaps in the future people would be a little bit more open to embracing, or at least giving a chance, these rather unconventional environments and ideas that gaming might seriously benefit from in the future. I hope you enjoyed the video, that gave you something to think about and otherwise entertained you. Take care.